Is Islam an Arab supremacist religion? This is something that I occasionally wonder about. On one hand, the Islamic prophet Muhammad is alleged to have said the following: "There is no superiority for an Arab over a non-Arab, nor for a non-Arab over an Arab, nor for a white person over a black person, nor for a black person over a white person, except through piety. People are descended from Adam, and Adam was created from dust." So in theory, Islam seems to promote racial equality, at least if we go by this statement that was attributed to Muhammad. There are a few other statements attributed to Muhammad that also seem to convey the same message about racial equality. But when you dig deeper, what you'll discover is that there are many undertones of Arab supremacy and racism within the Islamic tradition, and this becomes very obvious when you read what many classical Islamic scholars say. For example, Ibn Taymiyyah, a Hanbali jurist and a favourite of bin Laden, has said, "The Arabs deserve love and loyalty more than the other races from the children of Adam," and this is of course the opinion of the majority of the scholars who consider the Arabs are of excellence over other races and that the Quraysh are of excellence over other Arabs. This is indeed the view of Imam Ahmad, and the texts prove this. However, the people of theological rhetoric are of the view that there is no excellence or preference of one race over another, and this is the view of Abu Bakr ibn al-Tayyib and others. This is also the doctrine of Ash-Shu'abiyya, a group who hate and oppose the Arabs, but this is a weak view, and it is a view of the innovators. Note that Ibn Taymiyyah says that the majority of Islamic scholars not only hold the view that Arabs deserve more love and loyalty than other racial groups, but that the Arabs of Qurayshi lineage are of excellence over other Arabs. He also says that the view that there is no excellence or preference of one race over another is not only a weak view, but a view of the innovators. This is clear Arab supremacism and racism against non-Arabs. But to be fair, this is just an isolated statement from Ibn Taymiyyah, and one could argue that Ibn Taymiyyah is just referring to the classical scholars of his time. If that is indeed the case, I guess this could just be dismissed as a historical anomaly. But it isn't. You could find many other examples of Arab supremacism within Islamic texts. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, for example, stated this: "He, Ibn Hanbal, acknowledged the Arabs due and their superiority and their priority, and he loved them. He did not adhere to the doctrine of the Shu'abiyya and the contemptible among the Mawali that disliked the Arabs, and did not concede to them their superiority. He ascribed to them innovation, hypocrisy, and controversy. I asked him about someone who marries off his daughter to a Mawla. He, Ibn Hanbal, replied, I would separate them. Then he said, an Arab married to an Arab is suitable, and Quraysh married to Quraysh is suitable. Then he, presumably the interlocutor, asked, what would you think if a Zangi, Negro, i.e. black person, married one of the offspring of Fatima? He disapproved of it and said, that is the doctrine of the Shu'abiyya. Note how Ahmad ibn Hanbal states that Arabs have superiority and priority over other racial groups and disapproved of anyone who rejected Arab supremacy, saying that this is just a doctrine of the Shu'abiyya, who were a movement of Persian Muslims that campaigned for racial equality amongst Muslims. Then you also have this statement from Ahmad ibn Naqib al-Misiri in The Reliance of the Traveller, which is a classical Shafi book of jurisprudence. The following are not suitable matches for one another: a non-Arab man for an Arab woman, because of the hadith that the Prophet said, Allah has chosen the Arabs above the others. So in other words, non-Arab men are not suitable partners for Arab women, and note that it even cites a hadith as religious grounds for this position. I also came across a paper titled, Were the Muslim Arab Conquerors of the 7th Century Middle East Colonialists? By Robert Hoyland, Robert Hoyland in this paper tries to differentiate Arab-Muslim conquests from European colonialism, but he still makes numerous incriminating admissions and summarizes them in his conclusion. First, he admits that the Arab-Muslim conquests led to cultural havoc by saying one aspect of the Muslim-Arab conquests that is comparable with that of the European conquests, however, is the havoc that both wrought upon local cultures. In the creation of a new civilization, many elements of the pre-conquest world were lost. Some was deliberate. For example, the Islamic antipathy towards non-Abrahamic religions meant that most of these were in general wiped out, or, as with Zoroastrianism, massively reduced. Second, he admits that entire languages were lost because of the introduction of the Arabic language by saying, but much was incidental. A good example here is languages such as Coptic and North African Latin, which were crushed in the stampede to use Arabic. Third, he admits that non-Arabs were not allowed to assume the position of caliph by saying non-Muslim Arabs could be found at every level of Muslim society below that of the caliph himself, who continued to be of the Prophet Muhammad's tribe of Quraysh. So, what is the explanation for all of this? Why are there these examples of Arab supremacy in Islamic texts and history when Muhammad supposedly said that there is no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab? The way I see it, I think Muhammad was just giving lip service by promoting such superficial racial equality. He either had no clue what he was talking about, not understanding what racial equality actually is, or was just being deceptive. Neither bodes well for him. And when you actually look at other statements attributed to Muhammad, you'll find that there are a lot of racist undertones against non-Arabs and even Arabs outside of the Qurayshi tribe. Muhammad envisioned a black woman as being a symbolic personification of a deadly plague, saying the following in Sahih Bukhari, hadith number 7038. Narrated Abdullah, the Prophet said, I saw in a dream a black woman with unkempt hair going out of Medina and settling at Al-Juhafa. I interpreted that as a symbol of epidemic of Medina being transferred to that place. Muhammad also seemed to think that a black slave would be the worst possible leader of the Muslim community, saying the following in Sahih Bukhari 7142. Narrated Anas bin Malik, Allah's Messenger said, you should listen to and obey your ruler even if he was an Ethiopian slave whose head looks like a raisin. Moreover, Muhammad, for some strange reason, prophesied that the person who will destroy the Kaaba, which is Islam's holiest shrine, will be a thin-legged black man of all people, saying the following in Sahih Bukhari 1596. Narrated Abu Huraira, Allah's Messenger said, the thin-legged man from Ethiopia will demolish the Kaaba. Note that Muhammad once again specifically mentions a black man from Ethiopia. There is also the fact that Muhammad said that the authority of ruling the caliphate will remain with Arabs in the following hadith. Narrated Ibn Umar, the Prophet said, authority of ruling will remain with Quraysh even if only two of them remained. Note that Muhammad doesn't just restrict the authority of rulership to any Arabs, but specifically Arabs of Quraysh lineage. And according to the companion Abu Huraira, Muhammad is reported to have said that when Allah created the creation, He sent down Gabriel and divided people into two groups, Arabs and non-Arabs, and in the Arabs were the best of them. Then He divided the Arabs into two groups, the Arabs of Yemen, the Arabs of Mudhar, and the Arabs of Quraysh, and in Quraysh were the best of them. Then He placed me in the best of what I descended from. And as you can tell, the chain of narration for Abu Huraira's statement has been labelled as good by Islamic scholars. There are two things to take away from this. Number one, there is a racial hierarchy amongst humans. Arabs are the best and have superiority over non-Arabs. Number two, Arabs are themselves divided into subgroups, and there is a hierarchy amongst the subgroups. Could Aishi Arabs have superiority over other subgroups of Arabs? When taking all of this into account, it is no surprise that there are examples of Arab supremacy in Islamic texts and history. There are ample examples of Arab supremacy and racism in Islam's primary sources. And let's look at it another way. When people convert to Islam or are already Muslim but become more religious, their entire identity is Arabized. They speak more like an Arab, dress more like an Arab, look more like an Arab, and recite many of their prayers in Arabic. Non-Arab aspects of their identity are heavily suppressed and sometimes even completely erased. Islam is not only an Arab supremacist religion, but it is also a colonizing force that seeks to Arabize the entire world. Anyway, I would like to apologize to my viewers for my inactivity. It's been over a year since I last uploaded a video, and I hope to upload videos more regularly from now on.